The day after the World Trade Center towers collapsed, the United Nations Security Council united in silence. And then action, passing unanimously a sweeping resolution aimed at preventing another 9/11. For the UN, just a few kilometers from ground zero, it was personal too.
It's important to remember that this global institution is also anchored in New York City. It is a New York institution. So not only did people from 90 different countries perish in the World Trade Center attack, but many of our colleagues had friends and families who also perished. So we were part of this community.
However, that unity did not last. Just 2 months later, in November 2001, US President George W. Bush delivered his first warning to the international community that the US would act unilaterally if it had to, and anywhere in the world.
We will defend ourselves and our future against terror and lawless violence.
After what seemed at the time like a speedy victory over the Taliban, Washington then set its sights on Iraq and what turned out to be false claims about alleged chemical and nuclear weapons programs.
Ambition and hatred are enough to bring Iraq and al-Qaeda together.
United Nations weapons experts' findings ran counter to the US narrative, and the US failed to convince the Security Council to support the case for war against Iraq. It was a new low in relations between the United Nations and the United States, compounded when the UN headquarters in Baghdad was hit by a massive blast and a terrible loss of life in 2003. Then, UN Secretary General Kofi Annan went on to describe Washington's war against Iraq as illegal.
I've stated clearly that it was not in conformity with the Security Council, with the UN Charter.
It was illegal?
Yes, if you wish.
Relations have since improved somewhat, but it was a lesson in the limits of multilateralism and international norms when the planet is dominated by a single superpower.
We've come through it. I mean, the organization is still standing. But it is a reminder that in all too many cases, member states will often act unilaterally in what they feel is in their own best interest.
And the same applies, say UN officials, to the problems confronting the world 20 years on from 9/11.
Sadly, I think there are a lot of opportunities that were lost for unity. We're living through it now, right? If you look at the response to COVID, it is anything but united. If you look at the response to climate change, it is in anything but united. And the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the UN, everyone keeps saying we need a united response. But leaders are sadly not responding in the way that they should for the benefit of our humanity.
So that's why so much attention will be paid in less than 2 weeks' time to US President Joe Biden's first speech to the United Nations General Assembly here in New York, 20 years on from the attacks of 9/11. With a tragic loss of life and trillions of dollars spent, the question has to be asked after the US has had humiliating retreats from Afghanistan and Iraq. Will it be a more chastened Washington that's ready to confront the shared challenges of humanity going forward? Nathan King, CGTN, New York.